What have been some of the main teaching points you took away from not just last night, but the first three games going into this first high major game?
Yeah, we've learned a lot about ourselves as all of us that are in this position do with our teams, and I've really liked a lot of things that we've done, and there's things that we need to improve on. The great thing about the last game is we get to learn about when we did things right. It went pretty well, and when we didn't, we stopped moving. We got very stagnant out there, and we played three completely different teams. You play against a FIU team I think is really talented and athletic and press all over the floor and plays with a great pace, and then the next game you play against a team that's going to take the air out of the ball, especially when they keep it close. And again, you look at that team that has taken one high major team to overtime and then another team that really jumped on them, but that team that beat them, Georgia, does a lot of things that we just aren't capable of doing. So we knew that was going to be a tough game. I would have loved to see us, once we got it to 30, get it up to 40. And there's a lot of reasons why that thing got cut back. So, starts got to be better. We got to have a more conscious effort to get the ball to the paint, which we did in the second half. Our starts in the second half have been unbelievable. And we just got to get that same mentality with our group from the opening tip. And, when shots aren't falling, you got to attack. You got to get that thing into the paint. At FIU, the shots were falling. We made our semi-contested threes. In the last game, we were 0 for 14 on semi-contested threes. So then you get it in the paint, and then you play off it, and you have much more efficient offense. So, and again, we talk to these guys a lot about a lot of times your shot selection is dictated on the flow of the game. In FIU, we were on fire, and you can, live with some of those semi-contested or contested heat check type shots, and when you're not making them, those aren't the ones that get you going. So a lot of things that we can learn. I thought defense, we were really good, and we started the game off unbelievable those first 20 minutes, really 30, 31, 32 minutes, and they threw in a lot of tough shots. I mean, they bank in a three, they throw a couple in at the end of the shot clock. So I thought we did keep our foot in the gas defensively for the most part, but we need to be more consistent on that other end. But defense, I've really liked how it's looked for these first three games.
Starting fast, is that a mental thing, or how do you teach that? How do you instill that?
Well, we got off. I think we were up 10, pretty quickly, and then let them come back and cut it to 3 or 4, and then had a nice little run to finish the half. But it's just the overall pace and purpose that we need to play with to start games. If you do that against a team like we're going to play on Saturday, you're probably in a pretty good hole, and it's hard to dig out of those holes. So just the mindset of going out there, everything we do has to be with pace and purpose. And once we figured that out and got there, we built a pretty comfortable lead, and we've done that in all three games where we've had really good stretches. It's just got to be the consistent 40-minute game that we need to play on both ends.
What stands out about Oklahoma from your prep?
Yeah, talent. Their guards are really dynamic, and they get downhill. Davis had 11 offensive rebounds in their last game. So, that shot goes up. The athleticism that this team will crash, the physicality that they will play with. It's unbelievably well coached with Porter Mosier. And, they run really good actions. But, their guard, it starts with their guards. I think those guys are terrific, and they've got really good versatility all over the floor.
You mentioned Leo after the game having a good outing. Where have you just seen specifically the biggest jumps in his game, and how impressive have been with just how he's handled being thrown into the fire this
Yeah, the thing I've been really impressed with Leo is his overall basketball IQ. He's a really smart player, and it's a big adjustment when you come over, not only when you jump from high school to high major basketball, but especially when you do that as an international kid. And there's always a little bit more of a learning curve for those players, but he's figured it out very quickly. And you can play him multiple spots. He knows our defense, and this is a guy that plays one day in the scout team, and then we get him back on our side as well. And I think it's been good for him. And he's gotten a lot of touches in the paint. I loved how he sealed in transition the other day and got himself to the foul line. But he's going to be a good one, and you've already seen him grow from a physicality standpoint. His body looks a lot better than when he first arrived on campus. Kurt Joseph and our training staff deserves a lot of credit for that. And he's in the development program, and that was by design. When he came in, he's getting extra lifts, he's getting extra conditioning, and at the same time, he's getting on the floor, for important stretches. So I've been really pleased with Leo.
when you went over the film from 2 nights ago, I guess what were the points of emphasis specifically at the last 8 minutes or so?
Yeah, just finding a way to finish the game. And again, they made shots that they hadn't made pretty much all game, and a lot of them were contested. I didn't like our pace and our flow on the other end. That was the big emphasis.
When you say make more effort to go into the paint, how much is that on the bigs to like establish position early?
Well, it's not always the bigs. I mean, it's getting the ball in the pocket. We've been really efficient when we've gotten the ball into the pocket. It's driving, when we hit the paint on drives, which we did a lot better job of. We had 24 paint touches in the first half. We had 24 in the first 10 minutes of the second half. So that shows you how much more efficient we were when the ball got into the paint.
What do you like about the Pentagon that you've scheduled games there?
Yeah, it's a great venue. It's obviously, our fans love it up there, and we've had 2 really good atmospheres and environments, and we're expecting another one on Saturday. So, for our guys, it's a fun game to play, against an SEC opponent that was in a tournament a year ago, and then will most likely be in a tournament again this year. So, there's a lot of positives in a game like this. You get, the opportunity for us for the first time to go on the road and, feel what that is like, and, talk to our guys about how important it is. And, it's a business trip. We got to go out there. It's just a really good opportunity to play against a great team.
What was the pitch to Oklahoma to play up there?
That's Luka does a great job as far as, trying to reach out for opponents, and, that was just the one that came 2 years ago, Oregon State, last year St. Mary's. We played 2 good teams up there and have had different results. So, Oklahoma, again, want to play a really good team up there, and that's what we got.
Bryce is going to talk here later. After that kind of cold start, he was 0 for 5. He's been almost 20 points the last 2 outings. What have you just seen from him and his kind of ability to bounce back from a rough start?
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see him keep his confidence. I think that's the biggest thing when he went out that first game and had some really good looks, wide open looks that he's going to make. And then our guys found him, and he had that little stretch at the beginning of the second half where he helped us, really pull away in that game. And I think get the lead up to 35 or 40. And, he was one of the few guys, he and Sam, that had it going a little bit the other night. So, we run a lot of actions to try to get Price shots, and our guys have done a good job not only finding him, but screening for him when he gets it going.
Nigel Pack is old. He's played 124 college basketball games. How do you slow him down? He's obviously the head of their team.
Yeah, and Xavier Brown does a great job as well. And, those guys will both facilitate their offense and bring the ball down the floor. But, Pack was unconscious in their last game. He makes 5 out of 7 threes and tough shots. And, you can't get deflated. You have to do a good job of finding him and locating him at all times. And just try to make him take as tough a shot, contested shot as he can, knowing that he's going to make some of them. And, you just got to trust your defense and, keep doing what we're doing, have good active hands. But he's been terrific. He's a really good player to have that kind of experience, for us, similar with what Rink, brings to our team. So, just a guy that's played on a couple really good programs and, finishing off his career, obviously, in another good one.
You guys signed 2 players yesterday. I guess kind of official comments on Colin and Jacob.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I saw Jacob went out on a triple-double after after he signed, so that was really fun to see. And, both those guys really fit with how we play. They're both very versatile. They can play with the ball in their hands. They can both really get it going and shoot the basketball. Both have good athleticism. Colin is a guy we've been on for a long time. The really impressive thing about Colin is how he performed at that top 100 camp, or the NBA camp, where he went out and competed. And the thing we were all really impressed with is what he did defensively. He can really score the ball and shoot it, but he was awesome on the defensive end of the floor. So you're getting 2 two-way players that'll fit very well, and will obviously both have a great chance to be in a rotation next year.
How important was the Sanford relationship with Colin?
I'll let you ask Colin about that, but it certainly didn't hurt. Yeah.
Is there an old memory coaching against Oklahoma that kind of stands out to you in your career?
Oh, we had a really great game. Lon Kruger was coaching them in the Big 12 tournament down in Kansas City in the semifinal game, and it came down to the last possession, and we completely messed up an assignment defensively, and they had to hit Spangler, who was a really good player, that just dropped the ball, and we ended up winning that game, and then went on to beat Kansas in the championship. So yeah, that was a fun one. The old Buddy Hield and You know, Cousins, they had some great teams. They were kicking our butts, and senior night they were up 25. I think we came back and beat them in the second half. So yeah, we've had some good battles with Oklahoma, and then our latest one was in Orlando a couple years ago, and that did not go very well. So, you know, again, it's a very well-coached team and a great program, and we're looking forward to the challenge. Thanks,
Thoughts
guys.
on the alternate uniforms?
Yeah, pretty cool. I like them.